After an almost 30-year battle with the federal government, we at GOA finally defeated the veteran fiduciary rule by forcing President Biden to sign it into law. Well, not everyone is excited about veterans getting their rights back. Today on the Minuteman Moment, we're going to talk about how the House Democrats are now instructing the VA to break the law because they're so unhappy with this pro-gun win. Hi, I'm Ben, and you're watching the Minuteman Moment. So to give you a quick rundown of the situation, Joe Biden and the Democrats had to vote for a pro-gun law that GOA forced into a must-pass bill. That law prohibits the Department of Veteran Affairs from disarming veterans who had a fiduciary appointed to them to help them with their finances. Before we got this law passed, the VA was treating veterans with financial advisors as mentally incompetent, a legal term typically used to describe those who are too insane to stand trial or have been involuntarily committed to a mental institution. But now that's over. On March 15th, the Secretary of Veteran Affairs sent a letter to Mike Boss confirming that the VA will no longer be disarming veterans for having a fiduciary. Our victory is causing quite a stir in Congress. 138 House Democrats sent a letter calling for the VA to ignore the law. And 138 isn't a small number either. That's 2/3 of the Democrats in the House of Representatives. We can look at what's being said here as being representative of the party itself. If you want to know more about what happened with the passage of the law, check out our prior videos. But to understand why these 138 Democrats are calling on the VA to red flag veterans, we need to first talk about the actual language that got passed into law. To start, GOA advocated for a total prohibition on VA sending any names to the NICS background check system. That's why the House-passed version of the bill said no funds could be used to report veterans to NICS, period. That's called the Bost Amendment, because it was offered by Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman, Rep. Mike Bost. But in the Senate, that language was changed to what had actually been the Republican standard since 2017, when the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act passed the House. This was offered by Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. So it's called the Kennedy Amendment. The language is a little different because it says no veterans can be reported to NICS without the order or finding of a judge, magistrate, or other judicial authority of competent jurisdiction that such person is a danger to himself or herself or others. Sounds like a red flag gun confiscation law, right? Well, this veteran gun ban is from the Clinton administration. So, the ban was a sort of precursor to the modern day red flag laws. Anyways, there's a trick to this bit of legislation. There is no process whereby VA bureaucrats can drag veterans in front of a judge and have them adjudicated mentally incompetent. That process doesn't exist, and VA does not have the authority to create such a process. Therefore, this law is effectively a total ban on bureaucrats disarming veterans. That is why GOA supported both the Bost and the Kennedy amendments. But the Democrats didn't realize this until the bill got thrown into the appropriations bill and signed into law. That's why they're so panicked. We've covered these crazies saying stuff like, this bill is the greatest rollback of the background check system since it was created. Yeah, buddy, we wish. But now, they're straight up calling for the executive branch to bypass the will of Congress and the legislation. Get this. We're not sitting back as the Kennedy Amendment goes into effect. We're calling on the Department of Veteran Affairs to use their power to bypass this rollback, and they must do so before a single life is lost because of this legislation. Now that's coming from Congressman Maxwell Frost, a gun control advocate turned legislator from Florida. Here's another wild quote from Mark Takano, who is on the House Veteran Affairs Committee. If VA can, they should use prior year's funding to continue adding vulnerable veterans to the NICS database. Again, another gun control advocate telling the VA to break the law to disarm veterans. They claim this is about reducing veteran suicide. But we all know that having a financial advisor has nothing to do with mental health or your risk of suicide. And the leader of this letter, Democrat Representative Mike Thompson, kind of said the quiet part out loud on this. Also, even if these veterans do not commit suicide or kill someone, they would be a felon for possessing a firearm. Yep. So this is not about stopping veterans from completing suicide. It's about disarming as many people, in this case veterans, as possible. So enough with the crazy Democrat rhetoric from the press release. What does the letter actually say? Well, Democrats have 3 ideas for how the Biden administration can bypass this new law. First, they want VA to invent a court procedure out of thin air where a judge comes and decides whether veterans are a danger to themselves or others. Sorry guys, as we knew, and apparently you guys didn't, this is totally illegal and the VA has no such authority. Second, the Democrats wanted VA to fudge the budgets and ignore the GOA-backed restriction which was included in the government funding bill. Here, we can see Democrats asking for the VA to pretend to use last year's government funding and to continue reporting veterans in direct violation of the Appropriations Amendment. In Washington, the appropriation riders only apply for each fiscal year. Still, what Democrats are calling for here is the VA to directly violate the will of Congress, to ignore what the House of Representatives and Senate voted on and what the President signed into law. Wild. And third, Democrats asked the VA to utilize state gun confiscation laws to disarm veterans anyways. They know that Congress just passed a law to prevent veterans from being disarmed. Nevertheless, they want bureaucrats to disarm veterans anyways. Not only that, the Democrats think that their mere concerning behavior, whatever that means, should be enough for VA bureaucrats to start filing gun confiscation orders. They also want VA to start training its bureaucrats on how to file red flag gun confiscation orders and make the most of state-level gun controls. Now, we do know that the Secretary of Veteran Affairs basically excluded the Democrats' first ask already. He told VA Committee Chairman Mike Boss that on March 11th, 2024, VA stopped all weekly reporting to NICS. But he also gave clues as to what the Biden administration is going to do next. First, he threatened that the new law prevents VA from reporting any beneficiary who should be removed from NICS. But there isn't anything in the bill that this amendment got attached to that prevents this. So it seems the Secretary is just threatening to keep veterans disarmed even if they shouldn't be. We're investigating, and I'll let you know more when we learn more. Then, the Secretary also said that the VA will continue its planning and implementation efforts. These efforts will also consider how VA may obtain orders and findings of judicial authorities that a beneficiary is a danger to themselves or others. This suggests that Biden's VA Secretary is going to investigate using state gun confiscation laws to continue disarming veterans. That was the third ask of the 138 Democrats, and we're going to have to stop that now. So that's why GOA members need to pick up the phone and tell Congress to enact permanent protections for veteran gun rights into law. We can't trust Democrats year after year to actually stop disarming veterans with the annual funding restriction. The prohibition on adding veterans to NICS needs to be made into a permanent law. And only blocking VA from adding more veterans doesn't do anything to help the 250,000 veterans who have already been disarmed. They need their rights restored immediately. And finally, we can't eliminate this veteran gun ban only to have VA bureaucrats red flagging veterans and having their guns confiscated. So when you call Congress, tell them to prohibit VA from using red flag laws and so-called extreme risk protection orders against veterans too. The entire GOA federal affairs team, myself included, will be fighting to end this veteran gun ban permanently. But we need your help to call Congress and tell them to work with GOA to undo this gun control. Your activism will help prevent this fiduciary gun ban from spreading to Social Security beneficiaries like Obama wanted, or even to everyday Americans with financial advisors. So please, call your elected officials and tell them to protect veterans from being disarmed and red flagged by the Biden administration. Now thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of GOA's latest fights for your rights.